Good morning, Milwaukee. Yeah,
Mic check.
oh, there you go.
There we
Now
go.
they can hear you.
So, one time. Beautiful
Yeah,
for
do your
Wisconsin.
intro all
This
over
is
again.
WNOP podcast. I'm here with community outreach organizer Bryan Sanders, and I'm alongside with the executive director. What's going on? There you go. That's me. How you feeling?
I'm doing good. Feeling
Yeah.
good. It's Tuesday. It's good weather Tuesday.
We didn't get you in yesterday, so we gotta know how your weekend was.
My weekend was solid.
Yeah.
It was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Bronzeville had their
Bronzeville. Yeah, we
Bronzeville
mentioned that yesterday.
Festival.
Yeah. Black Arts Festival.
Shouts out to the Jamaicans, the
Mhm.
Jamaican Independence
Oh yeah,
Festival
was
at
it?
Mo
Was that,
Park.
was that Saturday? Jamaican Independence Day was.
That
or-
was Sunday.
Sunday. Okay.
Yeah,
All
but like the actual day probably was like Friday.
Okay.
Friday, something
Yeah.
like that. But like, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Jamaican Independence, man. Yeah, for sure. I love the culture.
my
love,
people.
Yeah, that's your people. Right. Yeah. That is your people, right? Yeah. That's right. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. I know the we
And
talk
then
about
they had a lot of restaurants that
at
brought
Bronzeville.
food at Jamaican Independence. The Jamaican restaurants usually come together.
Where was it at?
At Mo Park, right on Green Bay Avenue, Green Bay and Villa.
Wow. I missed it. Oh, yeah.
So it's free food for the whole community, and big shouts out to
I didn't even know
the Jamaican business owners that come together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, support
definitely. Definitely. Yesterday we were just pretty much doing a few political updates. We had the weekend, the event from the weekend. We had Joshua listed on yesterday from Melanated Dads.
That's right.
Talking about that. So he'll be a future or soon to be partnering. And what I liked about what he talked about yesterday, David, was that he mentioned lobbying and get on the ground with maternity leave when it comes for maternity and paternity leave for women and children, of course, and the 6 weeks now, and he wants to see that a year or so, not just for the mom but for the dad as well, and it being paid for by the government. So he's interested in doing some lobbying on that tip. So I think that's our connection right there.
There are some countries that I think they provide at least
a year. Yeah.
Probably at least a year.
I seen one who
6 months to a year for sure.
Was it Italy or one of Spain? I don't know if it was Spain. I don't want to, but it was somewhere over there. It was like 11 months. Yeah, it was in that area. It's in that Mediterranean area.
I got you.
Somewhere they were saying it was like 11 months. And I'm like, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
The baby, can get up, and by then, hopefully you got you a walking baby or close to walking baby, and mom is, got back to where she feels like she's comfortable mentally. So yeah, that was a good conversation. So shout out to him yesterday. All right. So I guess we would kick it off. I know got a lot of going on. I know you mentioned some of the redistricting things that's going on across the country, and especially between Texas and was it something that was I know was it some changes, and also I know some people were talking about the Democrats in Texas were of course highly upset, and some were even talking about leaving the state of Texas after the change. Have you seen
right. It's been a lot happening around that. So those lawmakers have left Texas. The Democratic lawmakers are attempting to stop Republicans, and the only way they could do that in this case is to not have a session at all. So Republicans in Texas and Governor Abbott is trying to give President Trump what he wants, his request of 5 more districts that favor Republicans. And typically this wouldn't be a topic of discussion until the next census, until the next, you wait a decade and then you do redistricting. This is redistricting right in the middle of after the last time we just everybody around the country redistricted every district, right? So this is pretty much an attempt to upsert the will of the voters and the will of the people to be able to vote the way that they currently have already structured. And it's not like that the current numbers that you see in Texas are so much better, but like it at least has established a baseline of a number of Democratic districts, a number of Republican districts, and right now Republicans in Texas want to make that even worse. So it really it strikes at the heart of having a properly functioning democracy when you change the rules in the middle of the game. And that's what's happening. But the Democratic lawmakers in Texas are now in Chicago. They're now in Illinois, attempting to stop the Republicans. So everybody's watching and seeing how this goes. I believe the governor now, Governor Abbott, has threatened to press felonies on the Democratic lawmakers for leaving
that have left. Yeah.
And a lot of games are being played.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that we wanted to highlight because Wisconsin Voices, we very much care about protecting our democracy, making sure that we have the best functioning, most efficient democracy that we can have. So every vote, every voice is heard and counted. And we've dealt with gerrymandering in the state of Wisconsin when it came to our state legislature, and essentially even when we look at the number of districts and how they're cut at the congressional level as well. So there was a built-in advantage for Republicans when they created those maps and instituted those maps. Those maps were thrown out as unconstitutional, and we see that Governor Evers led that fight to change the maps in Wisconsin. So now we have fairer maps that look different than the maps that were there before, and this all takes into account what the makeup of the legislature will look like come the next session, come the next election, to at least have more competitive districts. And I think that's what you hope for when you go through these processes. You at least hope that the districts are competitive for Republicans to be able to win and Democrats to be able to win. But when it's only competitive for one side to be able to win, it stifles the amount of collaboration and issues that folks on both sides of the aisle can agree on and work on and get passed. Yeah. And we're seeing that in Wisconsin now.
Yeah. So does that, and just with the governor's race coming up, will that be something that comes up in this coming up race, or is that something that you're looking at? You got two possible Republican, I guess. I don't know if they're officials now, but individuals that's looking to run for governor. Then you got like three, it's two names for sure on the Democratic side, and you got like 2 or 3 other names being pitched in locally. Or is that something that we will see from certain groups as they campaign during this coming up race? Or
they'll probably give comment on it. The good thing is Wisconsin isn't in that position right now, where all sides, just one side having complete control and then making a decision like this.
Yeah.
So we have shared government. The governor house and the statewide seats are one way. The legislature and the Senate and Assembly are another. So it forces everybody to work together.
Yeah.
In Texas, they don't have that. They have complete Republican control, and they're answering the call of President Trump to be able to change the rules. Yeah. I think it's kind of like their contingency plan if they feel like they are not in a position where people want to support them. This would be their way of trying to get around that, especially after you do a lot of unpopular things. And right now, the president is underwater in his approval ratings and probably at the lowest end that they've been. And then we'll see how that affects the governor's race. So as you highlighted, there have been 2 Republicans that have already announced that they are running for governor on the Republican side. We have 2 official Democrats that have announced that they're running for governor as well. So, look for more people to get in the race on both sides, and look for them to give comment about, the things that are happening on the national level and how that affects their platform, the things that they want to champion, the things that they want to oppose.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for the highlights. See, that's what I'm talking about. Having somebody up here that can clear all that stuff up. I had something else to ask you. I can't remember what it was about. It was something with the upcoming election, but we'll get back to it. Is there any highlights or anything going on that the folks in Milwaukee that it's a lot of stuff that's been changing and a lot of things going on locally. Is there anything that you have seen lately that people in the city of Milwaukee need to pay attention to a little bit more, or that we need to highlight more in Wisconsin Voices lately?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, we've been having a continuous conversation about violence prevention and seeing the many situations,
of course,
of violence and on our local news, on social media, and trying to do everything that we can to combat that. So that is still a big topic of discussion. It's going to lead to our guest today,
Mr. Greg Jackson.
Mr. Greg Jackson out of DC. But I think one of the biggest things is, and we got a caller, but just one of the biggest things that people are highlighting is the fact that they want to see solutions and they want to see investments in those solutions. And we're trying to have, especially at Wisconsin Voices, a broader conversation with our partners and the folks that we work with to advocate for a double down of investments into the things that we know that work.
Yes, sir.
We do have a caller.
Okay. Caller, you on air. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices.
Good day, fellas.
Hey.
This is Rick calling long distance from Germany.
Hey, guten Morgen.
Guten Tag, my dear brother. Guten Tag. I just want to say that many people are going about their daily lives and laughing at the man in the White House, but they don't realize how close America is to civil war. The militia movement in Texas, California, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and other states around the country has grown incredibly since the 1990s. I tell you, you are very close to civil war there in America, whether Trump gets a third term or not. I'm done, fellas.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for calling.
All the way from Germany. Nice.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that has been highlighted throughout this presidential term, throughout the campaign. Are you coming to unify folks? Are you coming to divide them? And that's been really a big topic of discussion. And that's a part of President Trump's brand. Like he has led in a way where he has not been interested in unifying folks. And I'm not sure, I'm new at Wisconsin Voices, but you remember being around, hearing the voices of people of like what was motivating them to get a gauge of what they cared about. As you think back on your conversations that you had last year, does that make sense that he's saying, President Trump was egging people on that, we got to be against each other. We got to fight each other.
Yeah. And I've heard conversations from groups outside of that where they was like, man, if it didn't go I've just seen little interviews and stuff. And it was like, oh, if the election didn't go this way, it was like, I guess it was like some little hidden plan behind the scenes to disrupt, like another, Jan 6 type of situation outside of that. But, as far as, all the details, could be just talk. But other than that, just hearing echoes of that, is just kind of wild. I remember when I was working at Job Corps years ago, I used to always read the students like articles because I always want them to expand and know stuff outside of, what Kevin Durant was doing and what LeBron was doing. So just like I started doing this little article trend in like 2011, 12. So I would read them articles after they got out of class. And I remember one of the articles I had read was that back in DHS, Department of Homeland Security, back in 2012 had bought like hundreds of millions of rounds of ammunition in preparedness for a civil war in the United States. And this was 2012. They had brought all this. So I just thought that was crazy. And that was, President Obama was in office during that time. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just because they got this black man in office, but this has been this thing. I don't know if it's been, but this article that was published, I've seen all types of things where articles were published like years ago. And then the situation, not saying the Civil War, is happening, but small little, concentrated events that look like a war between two groups could happen in the country, which would obviously disrupt a lot of things. We would go against so much, but just even that article years ago, and I'm like, man, this is circling back again, the militia conversations and all that stuff. You've been hearing about it a lot, of course, the last, 15 years, but the militia conversations have been popping up, and I don't really like to dig into all that stuff, but, you just always hear it in the back. It's just this, you see it with this breaking democracy and, all the amendments and things is being broken. And then you think about groups out here just preparing for things or trying to egg on these ideas of a civil war in our country, which is far from what we need.
Yeah, I mean, I think about like that is is more of a representation of a battle over the future direction of the country.
Yeah.
For the last number of elections, the margins have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So, there's clearly one side of the electorate that will go one way and the other side that goes the other.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we really think about like what it is that what's the true battle over, it's what kind of country do you want to live in?
Yeah.
Do you want a country where we make investments into people and families? Do we value human capital over financial capital? Do we appreciate an approach that values science or values evidence-based methods, or we just going off vibes? So just going off of whatever comes to our mind.
What feel like moment. Vibes that you even saying that? I was reading something and it was talking about how in Minnesota they want to bring a foreign company in Minnesota to destroy like a national park or some national wilderness. I guess it's like 1.1 million acres of like open land in a space in Minnesota. Is like beautiful. And they was like in the article they was saying you don't have to go out to the Great West to see. You go out to the Midwest and see like the I guess to see the the beautiful landscape of United States. And they were saying how I guess the current administration wants to bring in a foreign company to come mine copper in Minnesota. And I was like, one, I'm not even thinking about mining copper in Minnesota, but destroying this beautiful landscape, and it's just like going off the vibe. It's like, okay, it just seemed like they're not even thinking about the moves that's being made. It's like, all right, cool, it's opportunity. The vibe is here, they catch a bag real quick, this foreign company over here. So I guess destroying, American landscape for a quick buck. I mean, it's just like, one of the biggest things with all the natural environmental stuff we got going on. Even geysers are going a little crazy. I've been reading all this stuff. We just kind of pissing the earth off, and then you want to come over and disrupt. And it feels like you said, just going off the vibes. The current administration is just going off of the vibe of capitalism all day, like headstrong. We already know that's the case, but destroying more. I keep seeing more I guess destruction of middle America versus like I guess what I'm used to seeing is us going up to another country and getting a contract with them and mining over there. But it seems like they want to bring everything back here and start tearing up middle of the Midwest and middle of the heartland. So I don't know if that's going off the vibe, but it seemed like that's because I didn't hear anything about that until I guess the last week or so. But everything I've been hearing has been oil up until hearing about copper and I guess copper enrichment. I know the biggest thing is the pipe that they want to run through Canada all the way down through the middle of the country down to, is it the Gulf Coast that they want to run that pipe, the oil pipe?
One of the pipelines.
Yeah,
it could be. Depends on which one, because there's multiple.
Yeah. But, I guess so. The one that I was thinking about is the one that they want to shoot down through across the country, and it was just reminding me of, I guess when this administration pops back in, it's all the pulling from the natural resources here is the biggest conversation. I guess when you mention vibes, that's where I got to. I can start thinking about the vibes of the different administrations and how we like to pool resources and energy versus one way and energy going the other way. So it's a lot of stuff that was on my mind with that. Another thing that threw me off too was the current jobs. The jobs report. Yeah. In a nonpartisan way. How can we mention in the current report? Because I know it was 245,000 jobs that were missing or not reported or low, or we were down 245,000 jobs from that report, which I guess was the truth. And then somebody lost their job for speaking the truth, correct?
Right. So one of the things that's unique is, again, are we making decisions based on like what
the vibe
what we're supposed to do?
I'm telling you, it's the vibe.
Or is it like, are we supposed to do it off of just like, no, we want it to just be this? And ultimately, there are certain divisions of government that like it's not supposed to be a political control angle in mind. They all they do is just they do work, they report out. They count, they report out. They read, they report out. They make reports,
no sides,
and they report out. Like that's what they do. So it just reminds me of like there are folks that they just do their job.
Yeah,
and they could care less because they've worked for administrations that lean left, lean right, and have been Republican, have been Democrat. And one of the things that's really interesting about the move of firing, and we should pull up the name of the person that was fired by the administration after the jobs report came out, pretty much clarifying that it was a abysmal jobs term, right? The number of jobs they were creating that term, in that speck of time, and they instead of using that energy of creating more jobs in more scientific based ways, evidence based ways, proven based ways, they were like, no, we're mad at the person who said what the numbers were. Like
we got Erica Interfer, okay, the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay,
so Erica, it's an interesting last name.
So they took the anger out on the person that was just doing their job. But yeah, it's is this a Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
What is this?
It's definitely,
what is this?
Yeah, like you said, you're not on no side, and then you just when you think about the jobs, like you said, it's straight point. That's just should be a straight look. This is the numbers. This is what happened. It's like, oh no, this ain't what happened. Okay,
and it's been times where people have questioned, like, oh, are those numbers real? Like that can't be the number.
Because I've questioned numbers on both sides of administration when they come in and like 600,000 or a crazy job. Be like, like 300,000-400,000 jobs in a span of one amount of time. You're like, man, that's a lot of people getting hired. But then you think about the country, you're like, okay, it is about 300-400 million people here, roughly. Depending on whatever they really want to say it is. I still think it's more than 300 or 400 million people in the United States. I mean, of course, we not talking about everybody who slid in and slid out, American and non-American. But yeah, when you hear that number, and then you hear people getting upset about a quarter number and then releasing the person, it has you think about what's going to come up next. Like, are we going to hear some astronomical number next time? Like, it was 500,000 jobs in the month of August or something like that. So
well, they talk about like the downsides of playing with pretty much a division of government that like it should be untouched. It should just allow them to do the work that they need to do around doing research and audits and counting and all that stuff.
Yeah, like the CDC or
you
somebody
will
like that.
You will get certain people who want to invest in the United States or invest in our economy, and they'll be like, "No, I can't really trust it because now you just you got rid of the person for no reason who was doing things the right way, and now you went from saying that it was 119,000, and then all of a sudden it's 1.1 million jobs. Like, where did that come from? How did that happen? How did you get to that conclusion? I grew up in MPS. I loved equations, right? There are certain ways where 2 + 2 does equal 4, right? But ultimately, when you really think about like these roles and how important they are, and we take all this stuff for granted, right? We'll just see the blurb on the news that it was this many jobs created,
and an arrow going up or an arrow going down.
Yeah. And then we don't really think too much of it, but when you really think of like the ramifications of now, people can question if somebody's just a political appointee that's just there to replace who was there before, and now they're making up numbers. That's actually pretty dangerous, because then the ripple effects of what that can happen. But I know we got a break coming up soon.
Yeah, we go ahead.
We can go ahead and hit that break, and we'll come back.
We'll be back at
Here's your updated forecast. We'll see areas of smoke times here for today, otherwise sunny skies around 80 degrees. Winds out of east around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low near 66. By Wednesday, areas of smoke again, mostly sunny high 83 degrees. Thursday, sunshine high of 85. By Friday, mostly sunny skies high around 89 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Leach, an
KURN. I'm Gregory Jackson. California lawmakers are considering a bill that would require cities and counties to track whether new black hires are descendants of people enslaved in the United States. Starting in 2027, local hiring forms would need to offer three options: one for descendants of U.S. slavery, one for black employees who are not descendants, such as African and Caribbean lineages, and one for those who don't know or decline to answer. Supporters say the change could finally bring visibility to more than 2 million Californians whose lineage ties back to U.S. cabinet slavery, a group they say is often invisible in local government data. The measure follows similar changes at the state level and stems from a recommendation by California's reparations task force. It would apply to all cities and counties, including charter jurisdictions, and could be reimbursed by the state if declared a mandate. For a news, I'm Gregory Jackson.
Remembering what we stand for at Wisconsin Voices, we remember what we stand for. Check out our movement dedicated to empowering citizens and shaping the future. Engage with us on our website, social media, and podcast to make a difference. Visit wisconsinvoices.org. Explore our events calendar, like and subscribe to us on social media. Listen to recent podcasts and radio, and subscribe to our email and newsletter. Amplify your voice and be a voice today.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voice Radio. Follow us at VAWI or wisconsinvoices.org. And more. So be a voice radio. Discuss the local and national community at 7 times. Now, back to you. Every Wednesday,
860 AM, 106.5 FM, WNOV, The Voice.
Actually, Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. We're here talking about the national political topics. I've been here with Executive Director Bowen, myself, Bryan, the outreach organizer. We're talking about the last conversation before we went on a break. We were just finishing about some of the things going on with current administration. I want to mention to you too, David, if you've seen it already, how Congresswoman Gwen Moore, of course, is outspoken about certain policies and actions by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Her public statements she had and actions that were indicating a strong concern for the rights of immigrants and the impact of ICE activities on communities. So her key points of her conversation, and you can fill in whenever you're ready, were courthouse arrests. Moore consistently opposed ICE arrests in sensitive spaces like courthouses, hospitals, and schools. And she has stated that such actions instill fear, prevent victims of crime from coming forward, and disrupt the justice system. And she has also it was more to that, but I didn't get to finish up my thing that I added in there.
No, you could.
But yeah, have you seen Miss Gwen Moore talking about this a lot lately?
I have. We actually have one of the best members of Congress. So big shout out to Congresswoman Gwen Moore. She is I'm her former state representative. And she was in my district right here off of Capitol Drive. So she has been a champion for all issues that affect folks at a 4 CD. And I know for a fact just the current direction under the unneeded opposition for folks that want to be a part of this country, build their legacy in this country as immigrants, and to be able to come here. She has been pushing back against that unfair treatment. And the current administration has made it a goal of theirs to double down on using immigration, customs and border patrol, so ICE, and pretty much targeting people that are attempting to follow the law. And if you are showing up in court because, you know, you get pulled over, something happens, you get into, you know, some level of having to be corrected in your actions, you're showing up to the courthouse, and the congresswoman is basically saying we should not be using our courthouses as a place to target people just because they are immigrants. And what this really gets down to, and I know the congresswoman has been a champion of, you know, trying to do the right thing, is there needs to be a full solution on correcting the immigration system, and being able to work ahead rather than being reactive to all these different separate issues. We should just be champions of a new immigration system that allows folks to efficiently get through the process, to actually be a citizen, to actually be able to have a permanent place in our country. And that's one of the things that, you know, our current Congress, the way that it is set right now, they cannot agree on. And you'll always see, even if one party has control, you still need a bipartisan solution to be able to get some of these really big issues done.
Cool. All right. Just get an update. Yeah, we all good to go. Oh, we so good to go.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
all right, cool. So I think that's one of the things that she's highlighting, as she is attempting to pretty much stand up for her constituents. And we're seeing the actions of normal, everyday people do what they can to protect their neighbors, protect the people that are in their community. And we're seeing that in LA. We're seeing that in Colorado. We're seeing that in New York. We're seeing that even in Wisconsin.
Atlanta,
so
Atlanta was another one.
The congresswoman definitely is stepping up to do her part, to protect her constituents and to create a better dynamic of how we should treat each other, and how do we really build community where we value everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's nice to see that. When I was looking, it looked like she had some visits with some detainees and some individuals who are wrongfully detained. Excuse me. And it looks like she did some congressional oversight. So like she went to Dodge County and did a visit as well. So yeah, that's what being a strong representative for your people in the state, or just any state, as a politician, seeing them on the ground. Like, I don't. All that, you know, and I've always been very vocal about that. It's like, you know, you want to be in these positions, you know, even when you were running, I always seen you everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You was in the mix, or you was, you know, in your position, you was everywhere. So that's what I like to see. I don't take politicians serious if they're not out there doing the work. I just don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can say all you want to say, how much you love us,
right?
Pop up for that.
Are you seen?
Are you seen? Because if once you seen, you know, and you know, once you seen, people gonna take you a little bit more serious. And in spaces that's even the most awkward spaces. I know you probably had to throw yourself in a lot of spaces that were, you know, not as, you know, the ones that you probably the most comfortable in, but you know, you had to go. I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine you had to throw me a couple stories in the future. But yeah, I can imagine the things, you know. But that's what a strong representative.
Yeah,
I'm sure Congresswoman Graham Moore is not always comfortable going into some of these jails and prisons, but it's a part of the work she do, and she do outstanding work. And shout out to, you know, her showing me love every time she see me, even in DC when we be out there doing our thing with the CBC. So I appreciate her. Yes, she always looking out for everybody, even when she got 35 people. You all right? I'm like, yeah, are you good? Look, let's get across the street.
Yeah, but I will say it's a part of being just a good lawmaker, and a good public servant, that there are different parts of the system that you get a chance to influence, and that includes even correctional facilities as well. So, you know, I think if it's about doing the work, if it's about trying to find accountability and integrity in our system, she's usually always down for that. Yeah,
I like that. Shout out to her. As far as some local governance and budget news, Milwaukee County leaders have approved the $30 million funding for the redevelopment of Mitchell Park Domes. I seen that a couple weeks ago. It's time It is time, man. Look, you didn't took the trips there a bunch of times. It's time for updated domes. I don't know what 30 million is going to do, but it's a good start, especially for that one area in the beginning of the domes. But I would love to see when my friends and people come into town, they always, like, what's that over there? And I'm like, it's the domes. We can make it, if we got time to go. But it's it's a pretty unique piece to have in a city, and I think that it should be well taken care of and developed. I'm surprised it took so long for it to start getting some developments outside of. I think they did some years ago, but it's nice to see that a focus on there. Milwaukee Art Museum was another one I've been watching them find money for in different spaces as well over the last I guess couple years, them trying to raise money for that.
The art museum or the public museum?
Excuse me, the public museum.
I got you.
Yeah, but the public museum is
which has a new name now, by the way.
Did they decide on the name yet?
Yeah, it's the Museum of Nature and Culture of Wisconsin.
All right,
I think that's a new name.
Museum of Nature and Culture. Cool. So it's not the Milwaukee Public Museum. All right. I mean, that's a cool name. I mean, then that means they better be flexing on a lot of culture and a lot of nature inside there. Like the exhibit should be on point. Like every exhibit should be state of the art exhibits, because you putting a lot of emphasis on the name instead of just calling it the Milwaukee Public Museum. So I guess some money probably went into that.
But the other thing is that you highlight is that we all have a special place for the domes in our hearts, right? Because everybody remembers going there as a kid, or like
kindergarten trips, man.
Right. So you had that experience in your mind that, man, this was a great place,
right?
And over the years, the amount of cost that it takes to maintain that facility has gone up and up and up. So county leaders have tried to find the common ground of what's the direction that the community wants to go in when it comes to the museum. And our phone lines are open. Let us know if you support or your position on supporting the domes or the other topics that we're talking about.
Or the art museum, excuse me, or the new nature and preserve. What you say it's called? The cultural nature.
I better double check this name.
Like the way it rolled off, that sounds like the name. The cultural, the Museum of Nature and Culture, or Culture and Nature, or whatever it is. But they better be flexible.
Nature and Culture Museum of Wisconsin.
All right, so
there we go.
We better have a great Bronzeville. I need a great Bronzeville exhibit. Yeah, we need it better be a black migration exhibit in there of some sort, showing how black people got to Wisconsin, especially knowing that so many families came up here in the beginning of the Great Migration, and not just the ones that was here, like a lot of families, the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even some that came in here the 80s and the 90s, because that was part of the Great Migration, it seemed like, in Wisconsin, because of some of the benefits that were being offered here. But
what's interesting, when I first ran for office, and I was running for the county supervisor seat on the county board, and the 10th district. So I would run into the families that would say, the black families that would say, oh, we were the first black family that lived on this side of Keefe.
Wow.
We were the first black family that lived on this side of Capitol. And like you see, like, oh, okay, more black folks kept moving.
Yeah, it just kept
more and more.
One of my
more and more north into the city.
One of my uncles was one of the first to buy a home out in Brown Deer back in the 70s.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
okay.
So back in the day. I don't know if it's 60s or 70s, but I know they were one of the first out there. And they always talked about how, it was just a cutoff right there when you got to like some part of Sherman, like you couldn't even drive right there. It was just grass or field where, like, I guess, where we just slide into Brown Deer now, Bradley or whatever road it was, but it was just a field. There was no way to get there. So, I mean, anybody that remembers that area or how it was going out there, give us a call. But give us a call about some of these topics, man. We talked about a few things up here. We got the museum updates going on, and then of course we got the updates going on to our Mitchell Park domes and anything else that you feel that's interesting.
Yeah, I know that people are coming together to support the domes.
Yeah,
the amount of money that it takes to pull off a project of that size. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle, because it just costs so much. So,
I went like, was that last year I went, and I was just up looking at like the HVAC system and everything in there, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, you got big pieces of HVAC, 70 feet in the air, and you got to keep this place humid enough to feel like it's a tropical location.
Oh man, it felt like it's Jamaica in there,
dude. Every time I went in there, I'm like, okay, it's time for a trip. Speaking of, it's time for a Jamaica trip too. I need to get a trip to Jamaica. But yeah, it feels just like that in there. I had to take off, and I think it was like dead winter when I went out there. But yeah, tell us what y'all think about the new updates or any of the museums. Give us a call at the number that David mentioned, 414-444-5253.
no 5250.
Oh yeah, 52. Which one y'all want?
5250. Oh, we all got two numbers now.
Yeah, it was two numbers.
Okay, cool.
Just in case the lines get backed up.
5250.
Let's see. Radio show, as far as the more conversations that we got going on, or some other things that we can hit on point. You do have Evers' administration has cited a setback in modernizing the state's unemployment insurance system after losing $29 million in federal funds. So I know the unemployment system has changed a lot. Even I remember back in the day when I was on unemployment for a minute, the proof to show that you were searching for a job is different. So I'm curious to hear what modernizing the federal, with the modernizing the state's unemployment insurance system would look like. But I do remember that it's been some changes since I was on unemployment back in the day. All you had to do was just go on and be like, "Did you search for a job?" Yes. How many jobs? This, yes. And then that was it. But now they got a whole new system. Oh, we got 2 calls. We got calls coming in.
5.
Next line, Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Bryan, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks
Assalamu alaikum to you, brothers. Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam. I understand, but I call specifically. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
I call specifically. It's okay. No need to apologize. It's the intent that's just. But I just called specifically to give big ups to Brother David Bowen, who's in the studio. I just wanted everybody to know how awesome of a representative he was when he was in Madison. And not just because he helped me every time I needed his help through his office, but he went above and beyond the call of duty, made sure I got the funds that I needed, and I got them rather quickly. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. So I say about our brother, David Bowen, wow, it's a bad thing that you no longer occupy the office in the Senate or, whatever you were doing for the state work you were doing, because they lost a brilliant and capable and dedicated brother. That's what I think. And so I know that whatever you endeavor upon, you're going to give it your best, and you're going to be a shining star and exemplary in the work that you do. So once again, Brother David Bowen, thank you. I appreciate you. And may Allah continue to exalt you before the world to show just how bright of a star you are, brother. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. I really appreciate hearing that. You bringing back good memories. So I'm honored for that.
All right. So real quick, Dave, you got your caller online. You want to take it right now? You want to go break?
Let's take it.
All right, let's do it. All right.
That's Brother Greg Jackson out of DC. How you doing, Greg?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I know you said you had an event that ran over, so the walkie listeners wanted to just kind of hear. We know that it's busy out in DC and everything that's going on. Give us the lay of the land of what you're seeing right now, especially since you're so close to advocating against a lot of the actions that are diminishing violence prevention investments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really challenging time. The Trump administration is doing everything in their power to unravel the policies and dismantle a lot of the resources that the Biden administration made available to address violence. For folks who might not be aware, in 2022, we passed the first law on gun violence in 30 years, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and that included $15 billion in violence prevention programs. It made gun trafficking a federal offense. It closed the dating partner loophole, expanded our background checks, and so many more. And then the Biden administration actually had 54 additional executive actions to reduce violence, and the biggest one being the creation of the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And I was honored to serve as the deputy director of that. And, that work was critical. Oh, no problem. Thank you. It was my honor. And, that work resulted in a 31% reduction in homicides over 3 years. But the Trump administration is doing all they can to reverse it. A couple examples is, we had a zero tolerance policy for gun dealers. If they violate the law, they're shut down. They lose their license. Well, Trump ended that zero tolerance policy, and he actually sent an email, and he has a page on his website inviting those people to come back and get their licenses so they can start selling again. Folks who are knowingly violating the law. He terminated over $800 million in funds that were going to the Department of Justice to community-based violence intervention programs and other violence prevention programs. He terminated. These are grants that were already approved, terminated them. And now he's defunding the ATF, which is the federal law enforcement agency that holds the gun industry accountable. And on top of all of that, his son announced a company called Grab a Gun, where he's actually trying to create an Amazon for selling guns. So not only are they unraveling the policy and making our communities more dangerous, they're trying to find a way to profit off of all this, and it is pretty frustrating.
Wow. Let's make a connection of how those violence prevention. You said $15 billion. How that is disseminated, and help our listeners understand how that touches the local level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the money was released during the COVID pandemic as a way to help deal with the health impacts of the pandemic. So about $2 billion went down to local organizations that were doing violence prevention work. And then the $15 billion in that bill were disseminated through grants. And some of it came to cities, to like the Milwaukee Office of Violence Prevention, for example, to help fund their efforts. Some of it went directly to community-based organizations, like in Baltimore with Safe Streets Baltimore, and Atlanta, Hope Hustlers. And then another bucket of that money went to law enforcement that was partnering with community-based efforts. And those resources have had a tremendous impact. We've seen that the cities with the most investment in community-based violence intervention have seen the steepest declines. And you have places like Newark, New Jersey. I mean, they saw, I think, a 76% reduction in homicides. I think they're only at 8 homicides for the year. And Newark, New Jersey, like Milwaukee and so many other cities, they still have poverty. They still have housing inequality, housing instability. They still have economic inequality. But I think looking at cities like that is when you invest in the community and invest in violence prevention programs, you can see results despite the other conditions that our people are going through. And so, that's a little bit about how we push it down.
Awesome. Really appreciate you sharing that, Greg. Because that breakdown helps our listeners really understand, how these really big proposals end up touching their everyday lives. One of the things that we are seeing locally is a struggle for the statistics to go back into the right direction. And we know that when it came to the pandemic, that got into in the way of some of the progress that our city was able to see. Things were going up into the right direction until the pandemic that set us back, and we are still trying to find our way. And we see that other cities are really instituting some really good synergy and collaborations and investments that we'd love to see here, that we'd love to double down on here. But yeah, right now, currently, we're seeing those numbers go in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and I mean, look, unfortunately, that means lives are lost and people are harmed. But I guess the silver lining is that there are a lot of cities that are applying different models and seeing success. And if I was to make it very simple, it's you have to invest downstream. So like invest in communities, and you have to create more accountability upstream. So like, how are we holding gun dealers accountable, gun traffickers, and how illegal guns are getting into our community, building more accountability efforts to make sure that they're being held accountable for violating the law, not just the individual who has the illegal gun, but those who actually are profiting off of it and putting them into our communities. And if we can invest downstream and hold people accountable upstream, I think that's the kind of the secret sauce to how we can reduce violence in significant numbers.
Perfectly said. We jumped right into the interview just to make sure that we could get as much information from you in the time that we have. But give us a gist of your how you came about to be in the position that you are, being a nationwide advocate and expert in violence prevention.
I mean, honestly, for me, it started very small. And through tragedy, like so many others, I was caught in a crossfire in 2013, and the bullet that hit me hit two arteries and nearly cost me my life. And I kind of came out of the hospital room and out of my recovery room of about 6 months, just fired up to do something and to speak out and to change things. And I started by, speaking out and advocating for policy change locally. And I worked for our city government, helped us in DC, where I was shot and where I live now, is helping to build out different strategies locally. And then a family friend of mine was shot and killed in North Carolina. And I realized that smaller towns or smaller cities, and even states in the Midwest and the Deep South, weren't getting the same support as some of the big cities in the Northeast. And so that's when I pivoted to push for policy through Congress that can help every city and every community. And did that for a long time, about 7 years before anything started to move. But just kept chipping away, meeting with each member of Congress. I met you along the way, Representative Bowen.
Right.
Yeah, just engaging folks on, hey, look, there's more we can do on this. Let's make it a priority. Let's keep pushing for solutions. And thankfully, sadly, after the tragedies of Buffalo and Uvalde, we were able to see Democrats and Republicans come together and say, all right, we have to do something. And when that moment struck, I was already there with the ideas and with the solutions and with the whole army of activists and organizers, folks like Reggie Moore in Wisconsin and people from all over the country who already were part of kind of this big movement pushing for change. And so we got that bill passed, which was huge. Then we went to the White House and said, hey, how are you going to implement this thing? You can't just sign a piece of paper. Like, how do we get the dollars to our communities? How do we make sure these policies are working, that these regulations are in place? And that's when I got recruited to the White House. They said, if you got so much energy, why don't you come help us get it done? And so I was able to join the White House under President Biden for the last year and a half of his term. And our primary task was to implement that law. We fully implemented it in 4.5 months. And then we started to push for new ideas and new executive actions, and including things like the U.S. Surgeon General's Public Health Advisory, right? The Department of Labor rolling out economic opportunity focused grants to reduce violence, and just so many different things to improve how the federal government attacks this issue. Because frankly, it's one of those issues that's kind of been neglected for a long time. And so we were able to make a ton of progress in a short amount of time. And yeah, so I was proud to serve there. And now I'm consulting and leading a foundation I call the Rocket Foundation, based out of Atlanta.
Yeah, really appreciate you sharing that. And you're exactly right. It reminds me of somebody called in before you, just talking about some of the memories from when I was elected. And I remember coming across amazing people over the stint of my elected service. And nationally, we have some of the best and brightest minds that are coming together, and they work in the ecosystem of these solutions. And just the amazement that I have of watching you all from afar, to be able to work at light speed. I mean, to take a initiative and to work with the White House and to be able to implement something so huge, and to be able to allow that to touch communities all across this nation, instituting these solutions in violence prevention and these investments in violence prevention. And on top of that, removing the stigma that it has to be a one-sided approach, that you are even getting buy-in from the law enforcement community as well, and leadership as well in these solutions and infrastructure and things of that nature. It's just I'm amazed, and the honor is mine. Definitely be able to see you and your colleagues work.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. And we knew we were not just up against a clock of the presidential term, but we knew that every day we're losing people in our communities. And
exactly,
if the people working to save lives don't have the same urgency as this crisis, then we'll never win. And so I think that's what drives so many of us to work so hard and move so fast, is that we see the urgency firsthand. And I'm sure people listening can relate.
Absolutely. We got about 2.5 minutes left, and we just want to make sure that we get a chance to have this conversation about the future. So we know that your organization, under your leadership, and a number of folks on the philanthropic side, the national level, they are still advocating. Wisconsin Voices very much is committed to continue to advocate for these investments in violence prevention for the benefit of saving lives in our communities. We're in the position that we're in, right? This is the reality that we have to deal with. We have a presidential administration that is completely opposite than the one before that you had a chance to work for. Are you seeing any glimmers of hope of how we turn the page, especially for a city like Milwaukee, where we're desperate to see our numbers going the right way and try to find the investments and the resources that we can to make sure that the boots on the ground and the folks that do this work are supported?
I think there's a couple things. One is, the bill we passed in 2022 has significant Republican support. And we know that preventing gun violence is a bipartisan issue at its core. And while we might not have a White House that believes that, we know that both parties can agree on that. And so we do have a template of what can be duplicated at the state and local level, investing in mental health, providing more resources for domestic violence survivors, investing in victim services, investing in community violence intervention. These are all things that both parties agree are valuable and can be pushed locally. I think the other thing is that, when we started in the Biden administration, there was only one statewide office of gun violence prevention. Now there's 16. Right. And there was only 20 at the city level. Now there's 140.
Right.
And so we have so much more infrastructure to move things. And we know your governor has announced an office. I don't think he's built a team out yet, but I would push on him to do that, because that will be huge, is to have a state office and a state team that's working on policy and pushing different ideas and resources the way we did at the White House. But I think at this point, the way that we keep saving lives is by decentralizing the work and really working from the bottom as opposed to the top down. And luckily, we know it works, and we saved 31% reduction in homicides from the previous administration. So we have a playbook. We just got to run it.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you, brother. Thanks for calling in, and we'll connect because we got more work to do on this.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless you.
Going in the clutch. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. Hey, we want to thank y'all for listening.
Drake.
All right. Thank y'all. We'll be back next week with more people, more guests, and more topics. Thank you.